One day we worked as a team, the next day we was enemies. Other times she wouldn't talk to me for 2-3 months, and she would be like, "Oh, yeah, you can come see your child, but don't talk to me." And I would spend 2 hours with my child, but not with my partner. And yeah, it was one of those, it was flow. Everything went up, down. You don't know if she was in a good mood today, in a bad mood another day. Other times we would have a date, and then I would show up to pick them both up, and then whilst we're there, she would be like, "I'm not going anymore."
Hello everyone and welcome to another installment of Figuring Out Fatherhood. My name is Chris Topper, I'm your host, and today I'm here with my good friend Sam. Sam is a bodybuilder / security guard and fitness enthusiast. Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
So, I've been a bodybuilder for 6-7 years now. Pretty much started bodybuilding when I was 25. Well, to be honest, I started when I was 16, when I started going to college. But didn't really take it serious until I was 25, which is when I did my first show. And then just been in and out since then. Security-wise, I started security when I was 22. Just been in the game since then. Now working with a few companies as well as having a company with my friend.
If you want to come across any of your bodybuilding work or your fitness stuff, where can we find your social media?
So my bodybuilding work can be found on Silverback Sam _ at the end on social media. To be honest, I'm not using TikTok or anything else just yet.
So just Instagram?
It's just Instagram at the moment, so still building it all up. I thought last year I wanted to make a transition and change things on my socials and obviously get myself more out there.
Of course.
And, slowly start introducing myself in the sense of not just bodybuilding, but this is what I also do.
Okay.
And just a few changes are being made at the moment. So
nice.
So Silverback Sam _ at the end.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on my show. Like I said, Figuring Out Fatherhood, and that is the main topic for today. What we're gonna do is we're gonna explore your journey as a dad, and from the beginning, I want you to tell us how you have a daughter, right?
Yes.
Just the one daughter. Yes. How old is she?
My daughter is 13. She's gonna be 14 this year. So yeah.
Oh wow! And how old are you? Do you want me asking?
So I'm 33.
Okay.
So it's one of those. I'm gonna be 34 this year, so it feels like I'm slightly growing up with that.
Of course. Okay, let's go through the journey then. Let's start from the very beginning. So, you and the daughter's mum met.
Yeah.
How did you end up in a situation where you're having a child together? Let's do it.
So basically, we met in college. So I'd seen her a few times in college.
You didn't shoot straight away, no?
Nah, I didn't shoot straight away, no, because she wasn't even my type. It was more of a, all right, I'm training. So in college, I did personal training / teaching.
Okay.
So that was my little courses there. So I spent 3 years in college. So I think I met her at the end of my second year, going on to my third year. So she used to come to the gym occasionally. Then one day she wanted help with one of the machines because she couldn't figure out how it worked. But I do believe that was a trick at the time. Because she did tell, I'm sure she told me like it was a trick just to talk to her. After that, occasionally we'll see each other. And I think eventually I just said, let's go on a date, see how it goes. And we went from, just 2 people who know each other to dating for 6-7 months.
Oh, nice.
Before, obviously, we got to where we got to.
And how old are you at this time?
So at this time I was 18, going on 19.
Okay.
Yeah, so quite early.
And she told you she's pregnant at what age?
She told me she was pregnant just before I turned 19.
Okay.
So I remember she got pregnant, I believe in late September, going on October of 2008.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously we had a night, So what happened was condom split.
Okay.
I trusted her to take the pill, which she said she was going to take as well. But then 2 weeks later, she came to me and she was like, you know what, I got something to tell you. I didn't take the pill and I want to keep the baby.
Okay, let's pause. There's a big chunk of information.
Yes.
I don't want us to skip over, right? So she's pregnant.
Yeah.
In that moment, so you guys have a conversation and it was like, you're gonna take the pill.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm assuming that your mind is just at ease at the fact that she's gonna take the pill.
Yeah.
It's all well and good. Life carries on as normal.
Yes.
That's how you felt. Okay, cool. She tells you, hey Sam, unfortunately, I didn't say, hey, we're here now.
Yeah.
How did you feel in that moment?
In that moment, at 18, going to 19, you're like, right, you know what? Nah, this is not what I want. Like,
Okay, of
this
course.
is not, I'm not ready for this.
Mhm.
And I was planning to obviously have a child at 25, 26.
Okay.
You know, so, you know, figure out life, do life before, you know, I settle down at the age of 19.
Yeah, of course.
Raising a child. So at that moment, obviously my heart sunk and I was like, what you tell your mom? What you tell your dad?
Yeah.
You know, obviously they know you're having sex, but you're about to let them know that you're really having sex. So it was just like, shit. All right, cool. You know what? All right, cool. So it took about 3-4 days to process. But then eventually I was like, you know what? It is what it is. Gotta step up.
Yeah.
You know, so I stepped up.
And in that time, you guys were still together, right? You're still dating, still actively a couple.
So at that time, we were still actively a couple. There was issues because obviously some of the family members were okay with it, some of them were not okay with it.
Her family members.
Her family members. Okay. At the time, my mom was alright with it, but my dad wasn't. And there was a lot of back and forth for the 9 months.
So they were pushing for an abortion.
So a couple members of her family were pushing for
Yeah.
abortion. Obviously, my mom wasn't, my dad was in a way, but also not in a way. Because it was like, no, you're too young, like, you haven't lived life.
Of course.
You know, it was like, he wasn't ready to talk about it. To be honest, we haven't even still spoken about it.
Really?
Yeah, so I think that might be still sitting there, which is what has caused mine and his relationship to fluctuate, you know, over the years. But yeah, the process of, you know, having a child at 19 and, you know, taking all that weight on you was quite big.
Okay.
But yeah, we got there.
You were fairly young, but before we skip past this bit of information, so you haven't spoken to your dad about it. Is there a particular reason why? Especially you as a dad, what do you think the reason is that he hasn't felt the need to? You know what? Let's talk about life thus far. Why do you think that is?
So I think it took about 5-6 months to talk to my dad. But to be honest, my mom spoke to my dad.
Okay.
So she was the one who said to him, like, yo, this is what's happening. Obviously, the plan is at the moment to buy everything and just, you know, get ready for this baby. So I went from having that one job to having 4 jobs because I was like, you know what, this baby's coming in 4 months. Everything has to be here. So it was more of a, I had to escape everybody else, leave everybody behind, have my 4 jobs, go to college, get my course done, get my personal training degree, and then just, you know, focus on the fact that my baby girl was coming. So life really done a switch up at that point in time. So yeah, just, you know, had to work through it, and yeah, we got to where we got to. But yeah, being 19 wasn't easy at all, and you know, some days didn't even sleep, like have 3 hours sleep, and then you're going to your second job, or you know, you work another job till 6 a.m.
Oh wow!
You're traveling back now to another location with 1 hour's nap, but that 1 hour's nap was either on the train or on the bus.
Oh wow!
And then obviously starting to work at 8, and then so it was,
it's quite a journey you've been on. Okay, let's navigate now the pregnancy, right? So she's pregnant at the time. Obviously, you said there's back and forth between the parents and the family members and stuff. But her as an individual, and you as an individual, and I guess you guys as a couple, how did you guys navigate that together, or separately, or I don't know, how did you navigate it? Sorry.
So at first, it was a partnership.
Okay.
So yeah, we was trying to work through it, and I was basically trying to be the anchor between everybody, trying to bring the Caribbean family and the African family.
Oh, so it's Caribbean.
Okay. So yeah, so trying to bring that anchor between the Caribbean and the family, it wasn't easy.
Okay.
The first year when my daughter was born, still wasn't easy. Sorry, what was the question?
How are you guys able to navigate that pregnancy, that period, that initial first 9 months as a couple before your daughter was born?
Before my daughter was born. So as a couple, we managed to work through it through communication. But again, like I said, a lot of our family members were so against us having this child at that age, which, to be honest, I could understand why. Because we're both young. She was just turning, she had just turned 18, whereas I was just about to turn 19. So yeah, which, obviously we discussed where we could, we supported each other where we could, but having everybody else in the background saying this and that, and he's not going to be there for you, he's not doing this, he hasn't bought this, your child needs this, and it's like 3 months back, they got to the point where one time what they did actually was they wrote a whole list on an A4 piece of paper, 2 pages, of everything that says the baby required and what I have bought.
Oh, wow.
So what they did was on the piece of paper, the things I bought, they only calculated what was at my baby mom's house at the time.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, about 3-4 items.
Yeah.
The rest of the items were in the garage in my house. But obviously I was waiting for the baby to be born before I did the whole transfer for everything there. So on the list, literally had everything. I had in my garage already, everything had already been bought. And I was like, yep, that's in the garage, that's in the garage, that's in the garage, that's in the garage.
Yeah.
That hasn't been bought. That's in the garage, that's in the garage, that's in the garage. So on the whole list, I think out of 10, 15 items, there was like 1 item missing. And I was like, and the item that was missing was the buggy.
Yeah.
And her family eventually bought the buggy. But again, I felt like for all the talk that was going on in the background, her family only bought the buggy because they got a discount. And the discount was only because the dad knew someone.
Yeah.
Who, but before that, none of you really wanted to do anything.
Yeah.
But you're ready to crucify me
for
this.
Yeah.
But you're not really there. You don't know what's going on. So that whole process even slightly pushed us slightly apart because it was more of your family really, is trying to do this, whereas I'm already there. It's you that needs to catch up to me. But I'm here as your team member, so you need to decide now, are we a team?
Yeah.
Or are you team Caribbean and this is team African?
Yeah.
So which one are we doing? So eventually she was like, no, we're doing our team.
Okay.
And everybody else can just stay in the background. So we're like, all right, cool. Which is what happened. And then obviously again, we got, as soon as Little Miss was born, then it became, all right, we're going separate teams again. Which again, it was always me trying to reel her back in and just like, yo, listen, this is us now. 1, 2, 3. All right, everybody else just has to remain there.
Yeah. Wait, okay, hold on. No, sorry, before we get back onto this, let's still navigate the pregnancy. So I have 3 questions off the back of you.
Yes,
have you guys ever had a conversation about why she decided not to take a pill and why she decided to keep the baby, regardless of the fact that not everyone, but a significant amount of people were against you guys having a child together?
We never fully had a proper conversation. The conversation ended at her saying, I can't swallow pills.
Okay.
And I could, in a way, understand what she meant because a lot of people have the fear of swallowing pills, choking on them, and And I said, cool, understandable. You can act it. So your excuse is not really an excuse. So, if you don't want to swallow it, you can buy it. It's still going to do the same job. But yeah, that was another excuse after that. And then it was one of those trying to just have that process of having that conversation and letting her know, like, yo, we are really not ready for this because you're doing the job. So you can't support this process.
You said that to her?
I said that to her. Okay. So obviously everything is leaning down onto me, which as a man I was ready to take up but it's one of those, while she was pregnant, she was like, oh, but I can't help you with this. So I feel bad. But I was like, no, it's all good. Like, it's all good. If that's what you need, that's what you need. I'll get it for you. You need the phone to communicate with people. I was like, I'll get you the phone. You got the phone. You needed the food, the drinks, this, that. I was like, cool, I'll see that for you. So there was conversation had, but again, it was more of a, we need to talk about it. So it became a thing of, we'll talk about it, but we'll skip past the conversation and just carry on with life as we went. So yeah, it was that process. Yeah. Okay.
My second question is, so I think you kind of covered it ish just now, but they were leaning on you to do the heavy lifting financially, basically, to buy things. And do you know why that was? Like, why didn't the family want to?
I think it was more of a challenge, just to see if I was going to break.
Okay.
I think they thought, all right, you know what, if we put the pressure on him, eventually he's just going to walk out and he's just going to, I'm going to prove them right, basically. Yeah. So they kind of just leaned everything on me and said, you know what, you take responsibility. You did it. So, but instead of that breaking me, that just made me stronger. So I was just like, cool, sweet, I'll do that. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then obviously the fact where over the years I could prove them wrong constantly, I was like, yeah, sweet in your face. So,
yeah.
I was like, sweet, let's carry on.
And my third question, like I said, this is quite a lot for a 19-year-old and an 18-year-old, to be honest, to go through, right? What kept you going in that point in time?
In that point in time, just the process of knowing that little girl was going to depend on me.
Yeah.
That's what kept me going, because I think it got to the point where I was just like, you know what, I don't want her, but I feel like I need her. And I did need her because I realized being 18, 19 and having my child so early, and at that point in time, like I said, the family was so against me. It felt like I just had this built up rage inside me. And it was one of those where she pretty much calmed all that rage. And it was more of a, I knew that the rage now it's a big bubble, but it's just bubbling up inside. Whereas before it was ready to go.
Okay.
So it was one of those, I needed her to basically make me who I needed to be.
Okay.
So I think that's what kept me going. Just the fact that, this little girl is mine. And it's not only that she depends on me, but the fact I needed her to grow as a person. So, but again, it's, knowing the fact that you're going to be a dad is, as long as you welcome it, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful feeling, because the first few moments of you just holding on to that baby and she looks straight into your eyes like, yo, I know that voice, so I'm going to open my eyes. I'm not going to open my eyes for anybody else, because I know that voice, I'm going to open my eyes. Yeah. And just that first few moments,
Okay, cool. So we've navigated the pregnancy, right? Now let's talk about the birth. So how was that? Were you present when your child was born?
Yeah, I was present. A lot of dads were like, Jesus, I don't know how you did it.
At 19, boy.
I was like, I want to be present.
Okay.
So, I can't lie, I didn't regret the moment of seeing her come out. The only part I regret was holding her hand, my baby mom's hand, because I was like, yo.
She was about to break it.
Yeah, the other ones where you're like, yeah, I'm strong, I'm good, I got this. And then she squeezes your hand and you're like, yo, all right, maybe I don't got this. Like, just let go.
That's fine, yeah.
But yeah, those first few moments of just having that, and just literally carrying it. I didn't want to let go, and the nurses were like, "We need to wash her," and I was like, "Yeah, that's what I hold on to. I'll bring her to." And they're like, "Nah, because of bacteria, you need to put her in the tube." I was like, "Okay, let me hold on to her a little bit longer than just before you guys go wash her." But yeah, just those first few moments, it's just
Okay.
But the first year I think was the hardest year because obviously this baby's delicate for that first year. So that first year was the hardest part because we're still trying to work together as parents. We're trying to work together as a team, but then we still have everybody else against us. And you know what? Everyone is whispering in the background, and then it just got worse and worse.
Okay, and you were still together throughout this process, or?
Yeah, it was still, put it this way, it was on and off.
Okay.
It was one of those things where after the baby was born, there was a different side to it.
Okay.
And
you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I say a different side to it, it's as if, all the voices she was hearing during the pregnancy have now manifested in her.
Okay.
So where everything has manifested, it was more of a thing of, I know I need a break, or you can't have your child. You can have your child for the weekend, but you need to come here.
Okay.
Okay, but how does that work? You want the break, so technically you need the baby away from you, or you come here, so you get a break from everybody else. So it was one of those, like, one day we worked as a team, the next day was enemies. Other times she wouldn't talk to me for 2-3 months, and she would be like, "Oh, yeah, you can come see your child, but don't talk to me." And I would spend 2 hours with my child, but not with my partner. And it was one of those, it was flow. Everything went up, down. You don't know if she was in a good mood today, in a bad mood another day. Other times we would have a date, and then I would show up to pick them both up, and then whilst we're there, she would be like, "I'm not going anymore." And I'd be like, "All right, I'm going on a date with my daughter." I have a little evening with my daughter, sweet, take her back. So yeah.
Okay, off the back of that, 2 questions. Again, I love questions. So the first one, how did you feel throughout this process? Because obviously you've gone from wanting to work hard as a team, I think. If the person you're trying to work as a team with is no longer trying to work with you, I'm sure it takes its toll. So how did it feel throughout this process?
Throughout this process, it felt like the only person that was on my team was my mom.
Okay.
Because she supported me, even though she didn't have, well, technically she didn't, she was grandma, so she was going to support me regardless. My dad was more chilled out now that the baby had to be born, so he would also support me occasionally. But my mom was the one that would always be in my ear and be like, "You know what, you can do this, you can carry on, you can go ahead, don't worry, you got this. I know obviously you're broke, but here's £100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
And that £100 was her last £100 or whatever. And I'll be like, "You know what, all right, cool. I'll use this £100 so at least this baby will have nappies, whatever she needs, so on and so forth." So then obviously whenever I was able to, I would return back to her and I'd be like, "Here's 100 plus 100. Thank you very much." I appreciate it. So that period felt like, that first year it was a lot, because it was one of those where I went from weighing 14 stone to weighing 9 stone.
Oh, wow.
To, but the thing is, I never saw the change between me and losing weight. It was a lot of people were saying like, "Right, you okay? Like, is everything all right? You're looking very lean, and what's happening? You look ill." I'm like, "No, I'm perfect. Like, that's not how I felt." And then, that whole not sleeping, working 3 jobs, people saying you're probably gonna end up a deadbeat dad, all of that stuff. It got to the point where you go from breaking inside, or you don't realize you're breaking inside, until one day you sit down and you think, "Right, you know what? Let me analyze this. What's going on?" So then one day, again, being into fitness, I was always training as an escape, just, outlet. And one day I thought, you know what, let me take a progress picture because I must have grown a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, let me see my changes. So I take this picture and I'm like, this is not the progress picture I was expecting. But this was the first time I actually looked at myself in the mirror and thought, whereas before I was looking at myself in the mirror as in, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Another day, let's go. And then this one time I looked at myself in the mirror and I paused and I was like, raw. Okay, I see what people are talking about now. And then I took a picture I used a picture from, I think it was like early January of that year or the year before. And I was like, yeah, it's hard. And I said to myself, right, it's hard. My face had sunken in. I was tiny. Clothes were falling off me. But again, you don't realize. You just carry on, you know what I mean? So yeah, it took a big toll.
Okay. And you mentioned on and off. Was there any point, or at what point did it become a final? You know what? We're no longer trying to be a couple anymore. Let's co-parent.
It became proper final, I think, when my daughter turned 3.
Okay.
But it was one of those where we had my daughter's first year's birthday, and again, being African, obviously don't want to introduce all this stuff and have the biggest, flashiest birthday for the child. And her mom didn't want that; she wanted something simple. Her whole family, and we're like, yeah, that can all work. It's just they're trying to help as well. And then after the birthday, it was like whilst on the birthday, it was just arguments. One side arguing with the other side, the Caribbean side being rude to the other, and it was just back and forth. And trying to celebrate her first birthday wasn't the best. And then at the end of it, baby mom was like quite rude to my dad, and he was like, you know what, I'm done taking the rudeness that you lot have been providing. And it was this flame of he's angry now, she wants to fight him, her family wants to fight, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna jump in the middle and try to break this apart. And my dad is lunching at me, and I'm like, bruh, you're trying to lunch at me when I'm trying to break this. So I'm like, obviously now it's me and him face to face. And I'm like, let's go. Trust me, I'm gonna win, but let's go. But that whole process of seeing that, and then obviously that kind of just broke everyone apart. But I remember that, pretty much just changing the course of everything that followed after that. But I think after the first birthday, a few months later, we kind of just said, you know what, this is not really going to work. But the reason that happened was because it was all about her. And it wasn't her, me, and our daughter. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to be part of this no more. It's going to be co-parenting. But it didn't officially happen on paper. When we went to court, I think until my daughter turned 3 years old.
Sorry, you mentioned going to court. What triggered? What was the need to go to court? Sorry, I'm asking.
The reason we had to go to court was because she was like, for the first couple of years, she was like, oh, you can't see your child.
Okay.
Then, one random day she might be talking to me and she'll be like, oh, I miss you. Our daughter misses you. Come see your daughter. Sometimes I wouldn't see my daughter for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. I would try and knock on the door. No one will welcome me in. And I'm like, I just want to see my child. There's a reason, me and her created this. And that's all I want. I just want my child. So it was always on her where I could see my child. So eventually I was like, no, I'm done with this. So I'm going to go to court, and took it to court. And obviously court was like, you don't prove like you're a danger to your child. So, we'll grant you to have this days, and, as long as you follow those rules and regulations, we're good. Which then eventually, because I did that, then led her to go to CSA. And then that was another drama. So yeah, with the whole CSA thing, then they were like, oh, you owe $2,000 to the child of your mom. And I was like, no, I don't. Like,
As a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, how did you navigate that up until, or how did you both of you navigate that up until that point?
I think obviously going from being 19 to having 4 jobs, eventually I was like, nah, I need one solid job that would basically give me all the money that all these 4 jobs are giving me. And I was like, you know what, I need to find this one solid job. Eventually found the one solid job. They started me on like 3 days a week, and then they were like, nah, you're too good for this. They were like, you know what, do you want a full-time position? So they gave me a full-time position, then they were talking about being a manager, and I was like, nah, I don't want to go that far. I'm happy to just do my 5 days, get my money, and all really good. So I navigated through those years of working retail until retail wasn't paying anymore. And then I was like, you know what, I need something more. So then I leaned into security, and then security pretty much was the thing that opened the doors for me to then financially be able to afford everything my daughter needed, everything else that came in my way. Then obviously when the whole CSA thing happened, I was able to support myself with the retail and the security as well as, clearing that. But even that whole CSA thing, the way that they've done it, it was like, oh, you know what, you owe this, but hold on, have you seen this? Because you're saying I owe this lady £2,000, but this lady doesn't let me see my child. And then every month she gets 300 cash from me, as well as £100 in shopping for my daughter. So that's £400 a month for the past 6, 7, 8 months. So how did you calculate that? I owe her £2,000? Because that makes no sense.
Oh, even I can answer that question. I can answer that question. I think this is something, I'm sure there's a very, very valuable lesson that you learned there, right? You need a paper trail.
Oh, yeah.
You always need a paper trail, right? If you give someone cash, if I said didn't give it to me, it's my word against yours.
Absolutely.
And they're going to lean into what she says most likely. But, okay, so you actually paid off the $2,000.
Yeah.
And obviously, you didn't?
I didn't. I found a way of being the system.
Okay, go on, tell us. We're figuring out fatherhood, right?
So I found out that the system worked as the more hours you did on paper, on book, was they will calculate everything, then calculate your finances, your bills, your rent, all of that stuff, and then they will come up with a figure. So what I did for 3 months was like, all right, cool, that's how you want to play. I'll lower my shifts. So I lowered my shifts from 5 days a week to 2 days a week. And then I would work somewhere else, so I would get cash in hand from that allocation. So eventually, CSA called me back and they were like, oh, we realized that you went from earning £900 a month to earning £300 a month. I was like, yeah, it's going to be like that now. They said they can't afford to give me hours, So CSA was like, okay, cool, well, you don't need to pay. I think at that time now, they had me on like £350 a month I needed to give up. They were like, okay, well, you don't need to pay that no more. Now you're paying £50 a month.
Okay.
So I was like, sweet, all right, cool. As soon as they finalized that, sent me the paperwork, signed it, sent it back, I was like, cool. Boom. Can I get my hours back? Give me back my hours. I was like, sweet, there you go. So you've gone from getting £300 a month in cash, shopping for my daughter, and whoever else was CSA was giving her at the time to, okay, I'm not only giving £300 in cash, shopping for my daughter will be done by me and remain in my house, and pay you £50 from CSA. Plus CSA obviously has to take their bonus on top, so she was getting something like 20, 30 quid a month. So I'm like, there you go, bit the system.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have my thoughts on that, but I'm not here to judge either party. Like, if it worked, I don't know, did it work?
It worked.
How do you feel, in hindsight, how do you feel about that whole situation?
I felt better because it was one of those, I felt like, okay, you know what, I'm doing my part.
Yeah.
You're not doing your part. You still haven't got a job.
Okay. I'm sorry, how old was your child at this point?
My child was 3 at this point.
Okay.
3, 4. So even her family members were like, hold on, this guy's giving you £300 in cash on a monthly basis, plus £100 on shopping non-stop for the past year. He's been doing that. So why would you go to CSA to report him? Like, you have no bloody reason. And her family were like, you're on benefits. So you reporting him to CSA makes no bloody sense. So because you was getting whatever you was getting for benefits, plus an extra £300. So technically you didn't need to spend no money at all. But eventually the family was like, well, now you fucked yourself up because he has figured stuff out that you didn't figure out, and now you are where you are. I was like, cool, well, you know, I felt nice within myself because I'm like, okay, you know what? I've been supporting you non-stop. So, you know, I don't know why you're trying to constantly screw me over because, you know, I'm still trying to play this team game that you're trying to escape from. So she was like, you know what, oh yeah, people are in my ears. And I'm like, no one is in your ear. Like, your sister has already told me, like, you made a very dumb decision, a very dumb move. And I don't understand why you're trying to play a personal game because you're not going to gain nothing from it.
So she was saying to you that the reason why she went to CSS was people got in her head. What did you say?
But then no one had got in her head because her family members were telling me what they were actually saying to her, and they were like, we're on your side. You know, so now her family have gone from her side to my side, which is another thing where I was like, well, you wasn't really on my side before, so why are you on my side now? So, but again, I kept them at a distance because I was like, nah, I don't trust it.
Okay. This sounds, I can't lie to you, to me, this is a lot of turmoil. That's the only what I think, turmoil, right? And your daughter's 3 at this point. But at this point, are you seeing your daughter regularly?
Nope, still seeing my daughter on and off. I think I was seeing my daughter on and off until she was about 6, 7. So yeah, the first 6, 7 years, I was there, but I wasn't there. There was times I would go to a school play, and then she would cause an argument at the school.
Oh wow!
And I'd be like, let's take it away from the school. Let's go outside. Let's talk there. Another time, she made a report that I was a danger to my daughter because apparently I hit her. And I'm like, when did I hit you? Because I don't remember ever hitting you. Then she mentioned the time I hit her. And I was like, you do remember punching me 6 times in the face before I retaliated, right? And then she was like, yeah, but I was like, no, you punched me in the face 6 times. Your family was there. You punched me 6 times in the face. And I said, do not punch the man in the face because the man has a gun nothing to you. So when I retaliated, I punched her in the shoulder. And then she was like, okay, I'm no longer going to punch you. And I'm like, see the difference? But again, she wanted to report me and call the police. And she was like, oh, da da da. But then the family had to stop her. And it was like, no, you punched the guy in the face. He didn't retaliate until the 6th punch. You know, and we told you to stop punching. So, you know, it became worse and worse and worse. And then eventually when I think my daughter got to about 6, 7 years old, she was like, Dad, why do you ever want to see me?
Oh wow. How heartbreaking to hear.
Literally. And she was like, why are you always staying away? And I said, and at that point I was like, you know what, I'm not going to lie to her. It's not me, it's your mom. Your mom don't want me to see you. Da 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 da, so on and so forth. And then she was like, obviously she's digested that in now. Because obviously at 6, 7, she's like, okay, that's what's happening. Then the mom was like, we need to arrange a meeting because I don't understand why you're telling my daughter this lies. I was like, no, lies. So we arranged a family meeting. Her side of the family was there, my side of the family was there. And they were like, oh yeah, why are you telling me my daughter lies, da da da. I'm not stopping you from seeing her, you're always working. I was like, look, here's my phone, read all those texts of you saying I can't see my daughter. So she wanted to show her that too. And then she was like, oh, okay, cool. In that case, all right, well, you can start seeing her. And I'm thinking, why did they have to? Why did this have to happen? You know, stop trying to seem like you're the bad person because you're not. You know what I mean? You're not the good person in this. I'm the good person in this. Which then eventually I said, you know what? I'm walking away from you. I'm done.
Okay. And throughout all this, how did you feel like, hey, for your daughter's come to you, she said, I didn't want to see me. But you know, your mind's like, your mum's is not letting you see you. But how did you feel as a man just hearing that?
It broke me because the first time she said it,
she said it more than once.
She said it more than once. The first time she said it, she was 4 years old. She hadn't seen me for 6 months. So now I walk into the kitchen, she sees me, she recognizes me, but she's like, "Oh, what's that?" For like about 2 minutes, she was just staring at me like, you know, "Who are you?" kind of thing. And then eventually she obviously runs to me and she's like, "Oh, hi Dad, so on and so forth." As soon as I sit down, she just sits on my lap and looks at me straight, dead in the eye, and goes, "Where have you been?"
Oh wow.
Like, where have you been? Because Mom said that you've been working for the past 6 months, so you know, why haven't you come see me? So obviously in that first time, I'm like, looking at my baby mom, and was like, yeah, sorry, work has been very busy, so on and so forth, and you know, but I'm here now, you know, I'm gonna be here from now on,
Okay.
And then obviously the same thing happens again, and then you're like, a couple of years later, she asked me the same question, and then I was just like, no, I'm not there anymore. Yeah. That's when I just, you know.
Do you know, this might be a bit of a redundant question, but do you know why your daughter's mum didn't want you to see your daughter?
To be honest, I feel like she always had random reasons. Other times she'd be like, "Oh yeah," because she used to come up with the dumbest of excuses, and it was one of those where one time she said, what did she say? She said, my daughter wanted a brother or sister. So my daughter and my mom were having a conversation, for example, one of the examples. So she's like, "Oh, why is my dad not having, you know, giving me a brother or sister?" While she's having this conversation with my mom. And my mom goes, "Oh, you know, he's not ready to find one, but he's not ready to find a partner. But, you know, I'm sure when he finds a partner, he will give you a brother or sister, you know, for you to play with, But then my daughter went back to have that conversation with her mom.
Okay.
And her mom then twisted it into, why is your mom telling our daughter one day she will have a child?
Oh.
And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? It's like, why is your mom telling that 8-year-old daughter that she's gonna have a child when she grows up and I'm like, no, that's not the conversation. The conversation was this. So why are you changing it from this to this? You know, why are you doing that for? Because I don't get it. And then she twisted that into saying, "Oh yeah, your family's a danger to my daughter because they're trying to brainwash her to this and that." And I was like, "Nah, we're not trying to do none of that. Stop trying to do that."
Yeah.
And I said to her at that point in time, I was like, one day you're gonna wake up and our daughter's gonna realize you're the bad person in this. And the day that she does is the day she will walk away from you.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that day has happened.
Okay. Okay, cool. So at this point, your daughter is 6, between the ages of 6 and 8, right? So you start seeing your daughter on a regular basis on the age of 8, right? And your daughter's now 13. So talk about the last 5 years. How have you guys navigated that?
The last 5 years, I've stayed away from her mom as much as possible.
Okay.
Or their family. Birthday parties, I might show up if they're having it at her family's house. But it's one of those, I just pretty much, conversation has gone through our daughter to obviously each other. On other times, she might try to call me or text me or but to be honest, the last 5 years haven't been easy because there's just been back and forth incidents that needed to happen, even getting arrested for one of the incidents. And it hasn't been smooth, but it's got to the point where as long as I keep as much distance from here and her, it works.
Okay, let's talk about accountability, right? Let's talk about you as an individual and your part to play in all this. Where would you say you went wrong? Or what did you do that you wish that you did?
I always say to myself, one thing I would have changed if I could have was ignoring her when she came to speak to me the first time.
As in your daughter's mom?
As my daughter's mom. The reason I say that was because I feel like if I didn't go down that path.
So I'm just realising what you're talking about.
Yeah.
In the gym.
Yes.
Okay.
So if I never spoke to her the first time, I know my path would have been completely different.
Yeah.
Which is one thing I say to myself, right? If I had superpowers and I could time travel, that is one thing I would say to myself. I'd be like, yo, bro, don't do it. But I say to myself, even though that's what I say to myself, I look at my daughter and I'm like, you know what? No, I will never change that moment.
Yeah.
Because when I look at her, I'm like, you know what? You're a blessing. You don't realize, but to me, you're a blessing. So sometimes I have to be tough on her and say to her, like, you know what, I need you to step up your game. But I always say to her, this is not coming from a dark place. This is coming from a father's place. Like, I want you, because I know you're a very smart girl, but you're holding yourself back. So I always have to like step up to her, like, but if I could change one thing, I always just say to myself, that would be it. But it's one of those, you always say that to yourself in the dark moments. But when you're not in those dark moments, you're like, all right, you know what? I wouldn't really change anything. We're good.
Okay, so the incidents, the back and forth, like you don't feel like maybe you could have not retaliated, you could have not responded, you could have not. Because obviously we're human beings, right?
Yeah.
People know, especially when you've been with someone, 9 times out of 10, they know what buttons to press to get a reaction out of you, right? But at the same time, we've got to take ownership of our actions. Be like, you know what? You can push this button, but I don't have to give you the reaction you want. So let's talk about your accountability, like I said. Were there things that you reckon I shouldn't have done?
To be honest, no, because I don't feel like I've ever done anything to basically trigger her.
Okay, I understand.
Because I was always on the back burner. I was always the one that would keep quiet. I would take whatever she was dishing and then I would turn that into positive. But I would never go out of my way to then be like, you know what, I woke up in the wrong side of bed. Who can I irritate someone? I'm going to irritate her.
Yeah.
Never done that. It was always, if she done something to me, did I need to retaliate? Okay. No, I don't need to. Well, it's cool. She will send me a long ass message cussing me out. Okay. That's it. I would just say, okay. That would piss her off. She would send me another long one. Alright, cool. She would try to call me. I would ignore the phone call because I'm like, I'm not gonna do this long arguing and negative. I'm not gonna do that with you no more. It got to a point she would always try to beg me back to come back. She's a changed person, all of that stuff. But I never actually went out of my way to actually say, you know what, I'm gonna do this to irritate her. Could I have done a few things different? To be honest, no, because, for example, like I said with the CSA thing, it didn't need to happen. You know, I did what I did eventually because I was like, well, as soon as you're trying to squeeze this out of me when I've already given you this, I will do this because this doesn't work for me. Might work for you, but it ain't working for me because I've done this, so I don't need to do this. So, all right, cool. Since you want to burn me, let me burn you even more. I'll burn you. All right, cool, sweet. First thing though. For example, 2 years ago, she tried to claim that I beat her up again in front of our family. Called the police, even though she was having a physical confrontation with my daughter.
Okay.
So her mom has now called me. So my daughter's grandma from my mom's side has called me to say, this is what's happening, I need you to get here right now. So I've left the gym, speeding down, got there. When I get there, she's blocking my daughter from coming outside, and I'm like, listen, just come outside, let her get some fresh air, so on and so forth. Let my daughter out. As soon as I let my daughter out, punches me straight in the back of the head. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not gonna do nothing. We're good. Turn around, gave her a warning. Do not punch me. I'm just taking my daughter. We're good. Turn around again, punches me twice in the back of the head now. So I turn around again, I'm like, listen, this is the last warning. I'm begging you, do not punch me. Do not punch me. If I haven't finished that sentence, straight to the jaw. Alright, cool. Now I restrain her. And as I'm restraining her against the wall, I'm like, listen, you need to chill out, so on and so forth. Her family's trying to grab me off her. They're like, oh, she's not feeling well, so on and so forth. Don't beat her up. What are you doing to her? I'm like, I ain't doing nothing. I'm just holding her. Because I don't want to get punched. You guys are trying to grab me when instead you should be grabbing her. Whilst I'm having a conversation with the family and restraining her, she then punches me again in the jaw. So at this point now, I'm like, you know what? Move out my way. I just come out of the house, take my daughter home, where she's nice and safe. She chills out, she calms herself down. I go back to the scene. She's called the police. Now I've got, because I don't know what they said to the police, but they had 2 cars and a bully van.
Wow. Okay.
I'm like, all right, cool. Let's do this. Let's go. The police officers come up to me, I have a conversation, I tell them what's what. And they're like, oh, how did she end up on the floor, saying she can't breathe outside? I was like, I don't know, but this is what happened. She punched me 6 times, I restrained her once. Eventually I walked out. Simple as that. Where's your daughter? My daughter's at home, but she's nice and at peace. So we went. Police arrest me. They're like, oh, well, you don't seem like da. I'm like, I don't seem like what? And it goes, well, technically what I'm trying to say is I need to arrest someone tonight, but you're not pressing charges, but she's pressed charges. I was like, yeah, but I'm the victim here. So I was like, it's cool. There you go. Arrest me. So the bully van was basically because they said to the police officer, I was quite a bigger guy, quite aggressive, so on and so forth. So the police came down with about 7 of their guys thinking I'm going to react. And I thought, no, we're good. You can arrest me, put me in the van, up to you, do whatever you want to do. Get to the police station, they're like, rah, they're a proper calm individual. Like, I was so calm and chilled about the whole situation. The police actually drove to my house to praise me to my parents for being so chilled out. I was like, all right, cool. Then the next day I had my interview, said to them what I needed to say to them. They needed proof because they were like, oh, you claimed that she ripped one of your t-shirts. I was like, yeah, the t-shirt's at home in the back of my car. If you want to look, I'll give you the t-shirt that you ripped. And they were like, oh, okay. How did she punch you? Where did she punch you? I told them, showed them the scratch of the one punch that was across my face. And they were like, all right, cool, we're going to drop the case because clearly you're the victim here. So there was no point of you coming in. But you want to press charges against her? I was like, nah, we're good. I'm done with this.
Oh, wow.
All right. So literally after that, it took didn't speak to her for about a year. And then randomly she texted me one day and she was like, oh, can we talk about our daughter? I'm thinking, Brethren, you haven't even apologized to me for the bullshit you done last year. But all right, cool, let's talk about it. All right, cool. And now it's just, I keep my distance, again, communication through my daughter. If I have to communicate with her, then I will. But I keep it at that. Just,
Yeah.
And if she tries to have, sometimes she does the thing where she tries to have a little bit of an extra conversation. And I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. I gotta go. Work is busy. See you later. Bye.
Okay. And before we run that, or as we run, shall I say, let's talk about your relationship with your daughter now. What is that like, especially considering she has witnessed multiple incidents. She's witnessed things that people could label traumatic, right? So what's your relationship with your daughter like now? And how are you helping her navigate the things that she's witnessed to ensure that she's not affected, let's just start with, by what's happening?
The thing is, I'm not gonna lie, she's definitely affected by all the trauma that has come from her mum. Obviously, I don't want to talk all her business, but there's been some very traumatic experiences in the past 2-3 years, which again, I had to save my daughter from. And occasionally, my daughter will look at me and literally, come to me and be like, and just say thank you. I'm like, what are you saying thank you for? Because I don't get it, you're just trying to say thank you. And it's one of those, I know what she's saying thank you for, and it's that thing that always gives me in the back of my head, like, I need to make sure she's okay. I always need to make sure she's okay. We have a great relationship, and it's one of those, due to work, I always want to give her more of my time. So I can't always give her my time, but she understands that. But you know, she does the thing where if I've given her money throughout the past couple of weeks, if she has like £1 left in her bank account, because you know kids, as soon as they have money, they have to spend it.
Of course.
Even if she has like £2-3 in her account, she'll go to the shop, buy a biscuit, wrap it in paper, you know, present it like a gift. In the paper, there's always notes, little motivational notes.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And it's always like, you know, when you open it, you're like, oh. And if I had a shit day, I'm gonna just read that, and I'm like, all right, sweet.
That's beautiful.
I appreciate it. For example, she done it yesterday. She bought, she knows my favorite cookies are Oreos, but she couldn't find Oreos in 3 shops. So she got what she thought I might like after. And then again, wrapped it all up, wrote her little note, and gave it to me, and she was like, I thank you, I appreciate you, I love you.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, you know,
that's
a great relationship. So, you know, like I said to her mom years ago, I was like, one day your daughter's gonna wake up and be like, you're the bad person in this. It's not my dad, it's you. And just to see all of that manifest now, and me not doing what I could have done to basically, you know, fight every time aggressively, to doing things the way I thought was right, has manifested in my direction. And I thought to myself, all right, you know what, this has made me and my daughter come a lot closer. And it's just going to get better and better and better. So as a dad, I'm not going to lie, it's hard, because one day this little child is down. You don't know why she's down. You're asking her several questions and she's not answering. And you're like, all right, you know what? Do you want to go out? Do you want Chinese? Do you want pizza? What do you want? And then she'll be like, oh yeah, I had that. So even if I've taken, you know, okay, you don't want to talk. All right, let's have a takeaway. Oh, let's play PlayStation. You know, something that takes her away from whatever it is that she's thinking to, all right, you know what? I want to do this with my dad because he's got time for me. So let's do that. So yeah, I love our relationship, because even though I wasn't there for when she lost her first tooth, you know, when she opened her first Christmas present or something like that, regardless, even though I wasn't there for that, that has changed our relationship and even made it a lot stronger. You know, I know I've seen her first steps, but I saw the steps after that. So all of that together has brought us to just be like, you know what, it's us. And we have this sort of relationship that when people see us on the street, they're like, oh, is that your little sister? No, that's my daughter.
That shouldn't be funny, but it's funny.
You know, it's like, that's how we are. You know, and you know, every year she requests for, let's come buy similar trainers, or she'll be wearing my clothes. Like, I'm like, Richard, you got your own clothes. Yeah, but your clothes fit down. You know, so it's like, I could be away for work for like 2-3 days, and she'll be like, you know, rummaging through my wardrobe, and then I'll come home and she's got my whole brand new tracksuit on, and I'm like, Richard.
That's funny.
What you doing?
And you as a man, because obviously you're figuring out fatherhood, right? You as a man, do you reckon that's impacted you and your beliefs in regards to co-parenting and being a parent and women and a wife and a partner? Like, where do you stand, I guess, currently in regards to that?
The thing is, I can't lie, that experience and other experiences over the years have taught me a lot of stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, at one point I was against women as much as anything. I was like, yo, you lot are the evil root of this world. But eventually I was like, no, again, you can't compare one person to everyone, and you can't let them taint you know, you as a person and your thoughts as a person against other people. And, you know, I'm not gonna lie, the world is full of bad women, bad men, bad moms, bad dads. But, you know, regardless of everything that's happened, you know, you just have to know and remember that that was the past. This is your person, you're working towards your future. So whatever happened in the past, just take it as a lesson. And now let that help you grow your present and let it make and give you a better future. So no, he hasn't turned me against women. He hasn't turned me against thinking, you know what, I don't want a relationship. I just want another child, and you know, I don't want nothing from you. He hasn't changed my mind in that aspect, but it's made me realize I'm not willing to take bullshit from anybody, and especially when it comes to my child, it's made me realize, like, you know, I'm gonna be there regardless. So if you want this, and if you want a partner and a fiance and a husband towards the end, you gotta realize this is what we're doing, and I'm working all the way through that. But if you want this, in order for me to get here first, I need to make sure you're not like this person.
Okay.
And if you are, see that door right there? Just walk through it.
So your vetting process is a lot more thorough now.
Yeah. Now, you know, if I have to vet you for a year, I will vet you for a year. I don't care. If you don't like it, you can walk out and like, you know, that's up to you. But I've seen what I've seen.
Yeah.
I've gone through what I've gone through. So I'm not willing or ready to take anyone's, you know,
I understand.
dramas or whatever that brings. So
Sam, I genuinely appreciate you sharing your story with us, man. Thank you. This is Figuring Out Fatherhood. Sam, Silverback Sam.
Thank you, sir.
Bro, thank you so much. Cheers, man.